Hello and welcome to Castles and Legends. Today we are in South Wales at Pembroke Castle. Now this is said to be one of the finest castles not only of Wales but of Britain, and it has such a long history dating all the way to 1093. So I think we should learn a bit more about the history and go and have a look around and discover if this is really one of the finest castles. The story of Pembroke Castle begins in 1093, when during the Norman invasion of Wales, a small timber motte-and-bailey fortification was built by Roger de Montgomery, 1st Earl of Shrewsbury. The history of the site upon which the castle sits dates much further back, all the way back to the Stone Age. Beneath the castle lies an immense limestone cave known as the Wogan Cavern. Archaeological findings of stone tools suggest human habitation dating back to the Middle Stone Age, and archaeological research is ongoing. Additionally, Roman coins have been discovered, suggesting the possibility of the cave being used as a trading post by the Romans. Interestingly, as a nod to Welsh mythology, the cavern is also believed to be the abode of a fearsome dragon. In the aftermath of the Norman invasion, Rhys ap Tudor, the leader of southwest Wales, agreed a truce with William the Conqueror. Despite a few years of peace, tensions escalated after Rhys's death in 1093, resulting in an invasion by the Norman Earl of Shrewsbury, Roger de Montgomery. Shortly after gaining control of the area, Roger initiated the construction of a modest timber motte-and-bailey castle in Pembroke. Upon Roger's death in 1094, his son Arnulf appointed Gerald de Windsor as steward to manage his Pembroke estate. Despite the castle's simplistic design, it successfully repelled multiple counterattacks and did not fall to the Welsh. In 1102, Arnulf joined a rebellion against Henry I, which ultimately proved unsuccessful, resulting in him fleeing to Ireland and the Crown seizing all of his British estates, including Pembroke Castle. Henry subsequently appointed a new castellan to oversee Pembroke Castle, but this individual proved to be incompetent. In response, the king reinstated Gerald de Windsor as castellan to effectively manage the castle. It was during this era that the town of Pembroke was founded. It originally occupied the site of the outer ward, later spreading eastwards along the peninsula. Following the reign of Henry I, Pembroke Castle was granted to Gilbert de Clare by King Stephen, who bestowed upon him the title of the 1st Earl of Pembroke. Gilbert passed away in 1148, reportedly during an argument with the king. The castle passed to Gilbert's son, Richard Strongbow de Clare. In case you're wondering, Strongbow cider is actually named after Richard. In 1169, Diarmait mac Morcadder, the king of Leinster in Ireland, was in conflict with his neighbouring regions and had lost a great deal of land. Diarmait appealed for help, and in return he offered land, power, and his daughter's hand in marriage. It was Richard Strongbow de Clare who came to aid the king with an army of 1,200 men and succeeded. Strongbow married Diarmait's daughter, Aoife, and shortly afterwards Diarmait died, and Strongbow proclaimed himself Lord of Leinster and Governor of Ireland. The bold move did not go down well with King Henry II, and Strongbow found himself out of the king's favour, and the crown took possession of Pembroke Castle. Strongbow eventually regained favour, and Pembroke Castle was returned to him, but following his death in 1176, without a male heir, Henry II reclaimed the castle. In 1189, Strongbow's daughter, Isabel, married the renowned William Marshal, one of Richard I's most loyal supporters. It was not until 1199, when it was King John who sat on the English throne, that William was finally granted the title Earl of Pembroke, and Pembroke Castle was given to him. The period following the death of Henry II was marked by significant tension between the Anglo-Normans and the Welsh, with ongoing conflicts between the two groups. At one stage, the renowned Welsh prince, Rhys ap Gruffydd, had successfully regained control over all the territories in southwest Wales, with the exception of Pembroke. When William Marshal returned from battle in Normandy in 1204, he immediately set about transforming the castle's timber structure into a profound stone fortification. This included the cylindrical Great Keep that contained 5 stories and has embellished windows and a domed roof. The original entrance to the keep was located on the first floor, accessible via an external stairwell. The keep's roof was domed and featured several put-log holes and supported a wooden fighting platform. The curtain wall of the inner ward had a large horseshoe-shaped gate at the southwest side. The inner ward itself comprised William Marshal's Great Hall and various private apartments and other general buildings. In addition, the castle was built over a natural cave known as the Wogan Cavern, with access to it via a spiral staircase and fortified with a wall and gateway. It was likely used as a boathouse. The outer ward was defended by a number of round towers, a twin-towered gatehouse and a barbican. William Marshal was a true knight to the end, and at the age of 70 he had one last fight in him. At the Second Battle of Lincoln in 1217 he led the king's army against an invading French force. In 1219, at the astounding age of 73, he passed away. I will add that life expectancy, even for those born with land, was approximately a mere 31.3 years at this time. During his long life, he had served 4 kings and participated in numerous battles. Additionally, William was said to have won over 500 jousting tournaments, cementing his status as a superstar of his time. It is surprising that William Marshal's name is not more widely recognised, given his many achievements. However, some believe that a curse may have contributed to his relative obscurity. According to legend, an Irish bishop placed a curse on William Marshal, predicting that all of his sons would die without leaving any heirs. Sadly, this curse did eventually come to pass, which may have contributed to William Marshal's legacy being somewhat overshadowed in history. In 1220, Llewellyn the Great launched an invasion of the Pembroke estates. However, the citizens of Pembroke paid a substantial sum of £100 to dissuade Llewellyn from attacking the castle or town. The castle eventually came under the ownership of William de Valence, who was half-brother of Henry III and became Lord of Pembroke through his marriage to Joan, the granddaughter of William Marshal. Unlike the well-regarded William Marshal, William de Valence was one of the most hated figures of the Middle Ages. He was widely considered to be cruel and boastful. To assert his elevated status, Valence undertook significant renovation work at Pembroke Castle, including the rebuilding of the outer ward in stone, the addition of a grand new south-facing front, and the construction of a gatehouse, which began in around 1260. Valence also built a new 2-storey Great Hall block in the 1280s. The hall was grand, and the ornate windows may have contained stained glass. This was a hall built to impress. Later on, Valence made Pembroke Castle his primary residence. He also used the castle as a military base during the conquest of Wales by his nephew Edward I as they battled the Welsh princes. William de Valence passed away in 1296. His second son, Aymer de Valence, succeeded him. However, historical records suggest that Aymer only visited the castle once, in the autumn of 1323, as the southwest region of Wales was experiencing an unusually peaceful period at the time. Following the death of Aymer in 1324, the castle passed through marriage to the Hastings family. In 1389, 17-year-old John Hastings was killed by his best friend in a tragic jousting accident, ending a 250-year-long line of inheritance and resulting in Pembroke Castle reverting back to the Crown. Following this event, short-term tenancies were granted by the Crown for the castle's ownership. The castle began to fall into a state of disrepair. In fact, it is recorded that one custodian, William Beauchamp, stripped the lead from the roof. In 1454, Henry VI appointed his half-brother, Jasper Tudor, as Earl of Pembroke. Tudor later brought Margaret Beaufort, the newly widowed wife of his brother Edmund Tudor, to Pembroke Castle in 1457. At only 13 years old and pregnant at the time of Edmund's death, Margaret gave birth to her child, who would later become Henry VII at Pembroke Castle. Following Jasper's death in 1495, the castle once again came under the control of the Crown. Although Anne Boleyn briefly held the title of Marchioness of Pembroke, the castle never again served as a private residence or administrative centre. It was during the reign of King Henry VIII in 1536 the lordship of Pembrokeshire was abolished. Under Henry's reorganisation of Wales, the old county of Pembroke became the foundation of a larger county, Pembrokeshire, and Pembroke Castle ceased to serve as an administrative centre. With the changing times, the castle had lost its military significance, and it seemed there was no longer any practical purpose for Pembroke Castle to serve. During the 16th and early 17th century, the castle was known for its peaceful atmosphere. However, this tranquility was disrupted when the First English Civil War broke out in 1642. While many parts of South Wales supported the king, Pembroke chose to side with Parliament. The mayor of Pembroke Town at the time was John Poyer, who rebuilt the castle's defences. Despite being besieged by royalist troops, the castle was ultimately rescued by parliamentary reinforcements from the nearby Milford Haven. At the onset of the Second Civil War in 1648, Colonel John Poyer, the commander of Pembroke, joined forces with Colonel Powell of Tenby Castle and Sir Nicholas Camoys of Chepstow Castle in a royalist uprising. Oliver Cromwell arrived in Pembroke on May 24, 1648, and after a 7-week siege and the arrival of heavy siege guns, the castle's garrison surrendered. Poyer, Powell and Camoys were tried for treason, found guilty and sentenced to death. The order to execute all 3 men was later revoked, and instead it was decided that only one would face the firing squad. To determine who would be executed, Poyer and the 2 other men drew lots. Unfortunately for Poyer, he lost and was subsequently shot at Covent Garden in April 1649. Cromwell then ordered the castle to be slighted. Even the townspeople were encouraged to dismantle the fortress and use its stones for their own purposes. In the 1880s, the castle was leased to J.R. Cobb, who rebuilt the Barbican Gateway. In 1928, Major General Sir Ivor Phillips bought the castle and committed to a 10-year programme of restoration to help bring the castle back to its former glory. Following Ivor's death, a trust was established for the castle, which was jointly managed by the Phillips family and the Pembroke Town Council, and the castle is open to the public to visit today. Although Pembroke Castle is in a ruinous state, it is not difficult to imagine how grand it must have once been. The extensive ruins, featuring numerous towers, rooms and battlements, attest to the fact it was once a formidable stronghold. Interestingly, Pembroke Castle's defences have never been breached. The castle's perched on a cliff, and in the past there were marshlands on the other side where the nearest car park now stands. However, the marshlands have long since been drained, so you need not worry about your vehicles sinking. We've just finished exploring the castle. Very windy, and according to the guide, it is like this all the time, so if you are going to come, wrap up warm, I would recommend. There's a lot to see there. It's quite deceiving when you first walk in. Lots of towers, the Great Keep, amazing. So, is this one of Britain's finest castles? Well, I think so, but let me know in the comments what you think. And I think this is where we're going to wrap up, so I'm going to say thank you so much for watching today. Please do hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. And I hope to see you on our next castle adventure.